Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister quite recently, accepting the position from Liz Truss after having served as Chancellor for a relatively short 6 weeks. Truss was forced to resign due to the fallout from her disastrous mini-budget. Due to this, one of the first steps taken by Sunak in the position was assessing the immigration policies applicable in the UK. One of the means he determined to do this was to review visa requirements of foreign nationals who permanently stayed abroad but often visited the territory of the UK, and among them were Harry and Meghan. Sunak's novice decision was to claim that since Harry and Meghan were no longer active royal household members, they should not be allowed to enter the country without constraint as they please. Helen Sharman clarifies that Sunak put the former England was their main residence now being California, and they presumably visited the UK not on business but just for personal reasons. Therefore, it appears the couple should be subject to identical immigration standards as any other foreign citizens. In other words, in order to enter the UK, Harry and Meghan should have valid visas. Their entry could be declined if Sunak and his team in the Home Office choose to view their visit as non-urgent. Otherwise, they might take advantage of current status and simply visit the country for short periods without much planning tourism or advertisement instead of performing their royal duties. Reported when Harry and Meghan found out about Sunak's decision, they were filled with anger, believing he was just trying to disrespect them even further and further ruin their connection to the royal family. Recall that in numerous interviews, the couple has stated that despite the claims, the UK still represents a significant part of their personal identity and they have every intention of moving Archie and Lily to live in the country to a certain extent. Despite that, many perceived the government's move to restrict their entry as a cruel betrayal, a disgusting display of venomous enmity toward them. People intimately acquainted with the pair claim that Meghan shed tears after the pair's lawyers informed them about the uncertainty surrounding their visa circumstances in Britain. Harry, on the other hand, allegedly informed officials that it is effectively telling the couple wait for a loved one to die before visiting. Supporters of the Sussexes denounce this as punishment and politically motivated backlash against their departure of the royal family and subsequent public criticisms. They assert that denying the royal pair entry into the country with or without reason, no matter if they are active members or not, is simply unkind. This occurrence undoubtedly heightened pre-existing conflicts within the royal family, as does much of the Sussexes' behavior. However, supporters of Sunak and his government contend that immigration law must be enforced even-handedly, despite royal standing. Although the relationship between the family members is strained, they insist that decisions regarding immigration law and the funding of trips, in this case made by taxpayers, cannot be swayed solely by family. They note that the couple has little choice unless they wish to abide by regular visa regulations. Reports indicate that confidential meetings are occurring with representatives from Buckingham Palace, representatives for Prince William at Kensington Palace, and lawyers for Harry and Meghan discuss in search of a middle ground. Despite these initiatives, there is a formidable gap in their ability to reconcile, as sources indicate. The first offer was to permit the couple the benefit of occasional short visits to the family without the need for family visits. Sunak nevertheless refused to make exceptions for their purposes despite the growing pressure. Sunak accused the Sussexes of attempting to make a political decision, and was using their role in society to avoid the law has triggered a new wave of outrage on Harry and Meghan. As predicted, the burst of emotional indignation has driven global media's interest, with news outlets and social networks throughout the Atlantic arguing or siding with Sunak's decision to put the Sussexes under a visa blockade. The digital universe's reaction was more than just exciting. The social media and news sources on both sides of the Atlantic were filled with comments, critical opinion pieces, funny memes, and various faction assessments of the topic. The tension remains extremely intense and without a possible consensus in perception. Some experts call Sunak's tough and rigid stance today a threat that could spoil the monarch's neutrality in the future and damage subsequent reconciliation tries. Others explain that within the bounds of Britain, Sunak feels pressured and should protect his and party's interest. There are no certain conclusions in this controversial event, as both sides demand a more considerable concession from each other. The probability of allowing Harry and Meghan to visit Britain's territory free of obligatory visas border is uncertain. There is an unheard-of strain between the Sussexes and the United Kingdom government, potentially exacerbating their isolation from the royal family through this controversy.